Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the 27th episode of the Customer Ed Nuggets podcast series. I'm johnleh, CEO and lead analyst at TalentedLearning, and your host for today's show. I'm now in my 12th year of being an LMS selection consultant. And one thing is clear is that when it comes to buying an LMS or a learning platform for customer or partner education, getting it right the first time really matters. The wrong LMS just doesn't waste budget. It really creates real consequences for the people who chose it. When the platform fails to deliver, it's rarely seen as a system issue. It's seen as a leadership mistake. It's seen as a selection mistake, that somebody didn't do their homework. And that can mean a loss of credibility, stalled programs, diminished team value, or in some case, entirely new teams brought in to fix what went wrong in the first place. Now, as an LMS selection consultant, nearly every client that I work with comes to me after making one or more of the mistakes we're about to cover. If they didn't make any mistakes, they don't need an LMS selection consultant because they're happy and successful for what they have. So if you're heading into an LMS selection and thinking about switching platforms, here are 8 common mistakes that I think derail customer education teams, and really quickly how to avoid them. The number one mistake I think customer LMS buyers make is going too fast and starting too late at the same time. If your LMS contract is expiring or that expiration is coming up, you need to be seriously started your LMS selection process no later than 12 months in advance. It takes 12 months to research the market, catch up with what you've missed since the last time you were looking for LMSs, define your requirements, write an RFP, shortlist your vendors, and then go through a professional buying process. And then finally, after contracts, to begin implementation, roll out and go through a migration and a proof of concept and go live to your users. You need a year. It's better even to have 18 months. So my best advice on this is start early. Number 2, another big mistake buyers make is engaging the vendor community too early. There's like almost 1,000 vendors out there. They all do something different. They all have different focuses on use case, on what specific ones or how many they want to do, at how deep and at what level, and what type of integrations they support and services they provide. So talking to vendors too early just wastes a lot of time. The vendors think that you're a sales prospect. They'll keep following you up. If over time you talk to 10, 15, or 20 vendors, then you got all that sales call that you have to manage. And in a lot of cases, those vendors aren't right for your solution. And if you define your requirements first, you would know that and you'd be able to save yourself a lot of time. So that goes to number 3 of the big mistakes. And that is there's no connection to revenue or go-to-market goals with the purchase of an LMS. So sometimes the purchase of an LMS is just that. We're just going to take a piece of technology and flop it for another piece of technology. But in other cases, in the strategic cases, it's all tied to the business case. What is the business metric that's ailing or that you want to improve? And work backwards from there. We'll say, okay, well, who are the learning audiences? What do we have to teach them, when and how? And then that leads to our requirements. But if you start at that measurable business goal, then everything you're always building and buying and looking for is tied to measurable success. And if you don't do that, you have no guidepost to know whether you're successful or not. And if you haven't defined it, what ends up happening is you'll have to define it, but then you already own the system. And that's where a lot of organizations find now, once they define what they really want to do, they purchase the wrong system. The other thing that buyers forget all the time is even if they do those first steps, many buyers get enamored into technology, and especially now in the age of AI, of what it can do and what are the Gen IA features and feature this and feature that and feature this and feature that. That's important for sure. But if you start with your business goals and then the core use cases and audience that goes from there, that'll lead to the features that you really need working together in a certain way to meet your requirements. But that's only one piece. There's the features and the functions, but there's also the deployment, the hosting environments, the security level, the integrations that are going to be required, the API approach and strategy, all the technical things. Then there's all the service things of the actual implementation, content migration, data migration, defining all of that. Do you need any content development help, strategy, program development, video production? All those things are a piece of the requirements. And then, and admin support and also end learner support. What are your requirements there? And then what are your usage patterns and how would it make sense to be licensing the LMS based on how your learners engage either once a month or once every 2 years so that you pay the least amount for the usage pattern that you have. All those things together are your requirements. And if you don't have those defined before you engage the vendor community, then all those things, any one of those variables can derail you down the road and waste all the time that you spend evaluating that vendor if they don't have it and they're never going to have it. Okay, next one, number 5. If you know all that and you define your requirements, then you have to spend your time focusing out on a short list strategy of how you're going to go from the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of vendors that are out there to the 4 that are qualified, or to 4 that are qualified, or 5 that meet your needs, so that you can do a really deep review, apples to apples review of those vendors. It's much better to do a deep review of 4 qualified vendors than it is to talk to 20 vendors and try to find which 4 are qualified. One wastes a lot of time. The other one allows you to utilize your time to your best benefit and to your success. And so shortlisting tools, TalentedLearning is a great way to do it. We have like our right fit grid that's in the description. We have our Customer Ed LMS Buyer's Guide is another way to look at the best solutions in Customer Ed and narrow down to ones that work. And there's other public resources that are out there. There are LMS directory has lots of videos and things in that lead you to the right vendor. And if you have that short list strategy and you identify your 4, the next biggest mistake organizations make is not releasing a formal RFP. Organizations get scared, rightfully so. Writing an RFP is scary, takes a long time. Things like that can be true sometimes for sure. But it's the only tool that you have to protect yourself of getting apples to apples comparison from vendors, getting their answers in writing to their capabilities, prevents any kind of amnesia down the road. In case if you don't write it down, then it's really just anybody's word on whether and remembrance of whether they had or didn't had or could meet or could not meet. And so if you put it in writing, you get it. It also gives you an opportunity to ask for apples to apples pricing at different levels of pricing, or different levels of usage rather. And that gives you a very good first year right in front of you, total cost of ownership, and then over the years, so you can compare vendors wisely there. If you don't take the time to do that, quite frankly, you're buying without enough information, and you could be one of those people calling me in just a few years. And then finally, one of the most important things buyers can do is make sure they look at the long term. Yes, you need the LMS now. Yes, you have your immediate problems. Yes, your current system's not doing what you need to do now, and you need to fix those problems. But since you defined your goals, or you did if you're not making that mistake, and how you're tying to revenue, what you need to do then is make some predictions of what would it look like in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years, if I'm successful and if I'm wildly successful. Like what's the bookends of what that could be? And what that allows you to do is think about in terms of scalability, of choosing the right vendor that can help grow with that. And it also allows you to choose the right vendor that scales right in a pricing way through those different levels. Some vendors are relatively inexpensive at low numbers of users. Some are relatively expensive at high numbers of users. And so it's really important to evaluate your vendors at a couple different usage points to identify which one is right for you. So there you have it, folks. Those are the mistakes that organizations make all the time that leads them to have to hire an LMS consultant to get it right the first time. You want to get it right the first time. Don't start too late. Don't rush. Give yourself some time. Run it as a project. Don't engage vendors too early. It's a waste of time. Just use the publicly available resources without the sales connection. Make sure everything that you're doing is tied to market, go to market revenue. Make sure that your requirements have all those different facets, not just the functionality, so that you choose the right solution. For goodness sakes, don't skip the RFP and have a solid shortlist strategy of getting from those hundreds to a few in the least amount of time possible, and plan your success in 3 and 5 years out so that you don't get surprised and you can try to spend the most amount of time on a successful platform and not invest that time to switch again in a few years because you made a mistake. So there you have it, folks. There are some mistakes to avoid if you don't want to hate your LMS in a short amount of time and you don't want to go buy another LMS after all that work. You can find more of our fiercely independent content at talentedlearning.com. And I look forward to hosting you and having you come back on the next episode of the Customer Ed Nuggets podcast series. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you soon.